Thank you for your presentation. On that very last point, so these 5 points that you so eloquently set out, if I turn it around to you and say, assuming they change all of those 5 points, is Globalive then not controlled by Orascom?
I think the main elements of control are still that they're the major shareholder and the major debt holder. I think that's a killer. No matter how you slice it, all of the economic interest is controlled by Orascom. So I really think that has to be fixed. I also think that the level of the vetoes has to be fixed. And then I think those 5 things have to be fixed. So I think if they weren't the major debt holder and major shareholder, if their vetoes were reduced and those 5 things were fixed, I think that would do it.
Peter?
Actually, speaking of the vetoes, I understand that on the one hand, the vetoes can be looked at as interference in management's ability. I expect the argument on the other side, or at least one of them, could be that really, I mean, what's wrong with investors, business partners getting together and mutually deciding on the fences that they'll build around certain areas, right? This is the pool within which our management works, right? How could you address that? I mean, is there I'm trying to see what's really wrong with business partners getting together and saying, okay, here's the agreed upon terms of our association. This is the and the CEO himself then has good role clarity. He knows what decisions he can make, what decisions he needs to consult upon. What's really wrong with that?
Well, I think you're right, Commissioner, and these vetoes are a normal part of these type of transactions. It's the extent and the threshold of the vetoes that's worrying in this case. You have to give the management some latitude to make decisions, to make purchases, to make sales, without one shareholder having the ability to veto that. So, not disagreeing with the concept of vetoes, I'm saying that in this case they're so pervasive and the financial thresholds are so low that it seems to us like an untoward influence by Orascom.
But wouldn't that, just to be contentious for the purpose of the discussion, wouldn't that be Mr. Campbell's choice? I mean, if he wants to take the job, here's the terms and conditions of the job. Are you comfortable that you have, the preponderance of decision-making ability that you need to make within this? Why would we need to get into micromanaging how companies determine the role of their CEO?
Well, I guess, the thing that's telling here is that Orascom is doing the micromanaging. Orascom, this is not a normal structure that you would see. This is another lever of control by Orascom. So in a normal business arrangement, you would expect management to have more latitude, and you would especially expect the controlling shareholder to have more latitude. Here, the controlling shareholder has very little latitude about what can be done in the company, and the non-controlling shareholder can interfere with fairly small decisions.
Okay, point taken, but just to push this on page 4 here, under the legal test, address the second definition, the ability to manage and run the day-to-day operations of an enterprise. Why do you suppose, this is what I'm having difficulty with, Orascom, Mr. Sawiri in Egypt, would want to get involved in doing Mr. Campbell's job for him on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm going to let Mr. Linton add to it, but I think you heard Mr. Campbell say this morning that the decisions on the suppliers was made before he got there. So that was an Orascom decision. They decided who was going to build the network. They decided who the major vendors were going to be. And that's consistent with Orascom having a worldwide wireless company, and Canada is one division of that.
Sure, but their argument on that would be that, look, this is, that's where their leverage point is. That's where the power of being involved with a partner like Orascom comes from, and that they can make those deals.
Well, I'm not saying it's not good business. I'm saying that it's Orascom that's making all those decisions. It's Orascom that's in control. Bill?
Just to go back a bit, it's absolutely normal that the CEO would have a number of parameters by which he has to work, and over and above those thresholds, he would have to go to the board of the directors. Normal, we've got that in our company, and obviously they're at different levels. The issue here is that it's not the board of directors. It's effectively one shareholder. The board of directors, and you heard this today from Globalive, and it's absolutely correct, are there to represent all shareholders' interests. But I think whether you take the shareholders' agreement or the loan agreement, you'll find that these veto rights accrue to an individual shareholder, and that's what gives you the idea of control. And as Ken says, it's just one of a whole series of items that added together, we think, push this decision in one direction.
Oh, I understand that argument. In the on page 6 of your presentation here, you mentioned in section 7.1 of the principal loan agreement that allows Orascom to declare an event of default. And you go on to say, effectively, this means that the loan is almost callable by Orascom on demand. Why would they do that? I mean, we addressed that issue this morning and essentially said they would be attacking their own best interests by doing that. Is there a scenario that we haven't thought of where?
I would quote what the chair said in a referring to a different provision. It's a sword of Damocles. They're saying, look, as long as you don't step out of line, everything will be fine here. But if you step out of line, we can wind this thing up. So it means that they have the ability to terminate the thing at any time, and it ensures that there will be compliance with their wishes.
But that would go against their own best interest to do that, as we understand it right now. I'm trying to get a sense of, I'm not disagreeing, I'm trying to get a sense of what the scenario might be that when that would take place.
I think this morning you heard a couple of real truisms, and that is, one, every loan agreement has a term on it, whether we like it or not. Every loan agreement has these provisions in it, and when you are creating those loan agreements, it's the full intentions of the parties to repay those loans and be best friends and have a successful business. And I think we've all been in situations where that doesn't work out. And absolutely, as we sit here today, you could easily make the argument that this would not be in one party's interest or another. But the fact that it's in these documents, the fact that it can be exercised, is just another step. And circumstances change drastically. Something might happen, next year so substantial to the wireless industry that this may be an item that would be seriously looked at.
You share TELUS's suspicions, I guess, is the, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it's what I took from them regarding Globalive and Orascom's sincerity in seeking non-Orascom financing for its operation.
I have a more fundamental concern than TELUS, and Bill will add too. This is the seed capital we're talking about. They describe it as the seed capital in their reply comments. This is the equity. It's a debt instrument, but it's equity. They put in $500 million. That bought the spectrum. That was the first $60 million of operating. They got back essentially a debt instrument for $500 million, and it appears, we don't see all the documents, it appears they got back the 65% equity or shares for free. But the value, the grub state, the initial money is that $500 million. That's not, you can't call that a bridge loan. That's the person who has put in that first $500 million owns the company. You can't bridge that loan to something else. A bank might loan you the second $500 million. But what you're really talking about, if they're saying they want to refinance that, they're talking about selling part of the company. And maybe they do want to sell part of the company, but as Mr. Ducharme said this morning, it's very hard to revenues and business coming in. So I don't see any realistic scenario unless they find another sort of strategic investor who wants to take part of any equity, where you could consider this to be something that's going to be refinanced.
So it's just with respect, you didn't answer my question.
Well, I think I
you answered another one and it was a good answer, but what I was trying to get at was the availability of capital in the markets. I mean, a lot of this is coming down to the fact. I mean, they're saying, look, we didn't want to do it this way, but as we're all aware, something happened last year, and so we had to do it this way. And this is a key factor in what's caught everybody's attention here, is this dual role of equity and note holder, essentially. So what I'm trying to get at is, let me try it another way, do you find that to be a credible argument?
I'll let Joe
Short
go.
answer.
I'll let
I think the evidence in the marketplace is that there is one other greenfields competitor who has publicly announced that they've got financing. You know, Dave Wireless put out a announcement that they got $50 million worth of financing from OMERS, which is the Ontario Municipal Employees. Public Mobile, sorry, I got them mixed up. So that's on the public record, or at least it was press released. I think the same organization put out a press release just this morning saying they received some venture capital financing, but I don't know if it was disclosed. So there have been other examples of new entrants getting some financing.
Okay.